Well, there you go. Looking back on 12 interesting months, Karen Hogan, our business reporter. Well, listening to that, Kate Hardcastle, a retail expert from Yorkshire. The last 12 months have really been a turbulent time. First of all, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How do you think that businesses have fared in Yorkshire?
I think we've struggled tremendously. I think it's been very challenging times, not just in Yorkshire, but UK-wide. Part of the work we do is international, and so we get a very good reflection of what's happening in the States, in Australia, in the Emirates, and then come and reflect on the UK and see what's happening. But I also think there's quite a challenge when things are summarised, as they have been at the moment, as doom and gloom, because I think it's very challenging for us to feel positive and to go out there and spend or go out and have a good time with money that we are constantly aware is in short supply.
It's an interesting scenario now for people, isn't it, who have got to decide how they're going to, I suppose, challenge this on a personal level as well as a business level. Because if this is going to be a period of 3, 4, 5 years, people are going to have to change how they live. It's not just one of these where you can batten down the hatches and deal with it for 18 months and then move on.
What the consumer's doing from time to time in the UK is quite interesting, actually. It swings massively, and maybe yourself or your listeners will recognise this sort of pattern I'm going to describe, which is we're very, very aware of it, and then we become very definite on things that we're not going to do. We won't go on holiday, we won't go to the pub, we won't spend that money. Christmas this year we were planning to spend an average of £423 on gifts, compared to perhaps £600 on gifts in 2001. So we make very definite decisions about things, and then we do the blowout, which is, oh, do you know what? I can't cope with this anymore. Work's hard, life's hard, kids are hard, and we will buy weekends away or meals out or expensive items. So there's quite bizarre patterns happening. Generally, there's a downturn, and we're having to make decisions that are there for the long term. This isn't a David and Goliath style battle. We can't suddenly overturn this. But if we could balance some of our actions a little bit and plan for that 3 to 5 years as a more consistent heartbeat approach in retail and most things that we do, the economy will start to show very small signs of a pickup.
I think that's really fascinating, because that's exactly what I've done. Is, we cut back and you think very carefully about what you're going to put in the weekly shop, and can you save here, can you do this, can you do that? And then there's those nights when you think, you know what, just forget it. Let's go and get a takeaway, or let's go out for dinner, or let's go and spend on this, that and the other. I think it's really interesting. That probably says an awful lot about the mental psyche right now of the consumer. Have you been surprised at some of the bigger businesses that have struggled and gone under in the last 12 months?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think a lot of big businesses have a lot of infrastructure that we as consumers don't probably realise and recognise. And when those places with lots of staff, lots of bills, etc., need to work out their strategy and their business plan, and there's a lot more to it. I mean, I think, again, the media can be quite challenging sometimes on what looks like a very basic equation, and it's not that case at all. But I think a lot of businesses that we deal with, and a lot of businesses that are being quite proactive, can find there are plans that can help to build a business for the kind of the consumer or the business that we're dealing with today, and that's what we need to do. We can't do what we've always done, because we'll get what we've always got. And with the internet and everything else going on, you've got to become robust for today's times, and you've got to become robust for things like that erratic buying pattern we were talking about. And I do think that a lot of the bigger businesses actually were quite resolute in being the businesses they've always been, didn't adapt to new demand very well, didn't adapt to changes very well, and therefore sadly paid the consequences. Another thing as well is sticking your head in the sand, because if something is going wrong, it can be quite frightening to ask for help, but that's something we all need to do in any situation.
One of the big things on a personal level I've noticed in the last 12 months is using sites like Groupon and Living Social that have allowed me to buy things kind of on their terms, but at discounted prices. Are we going to see more of that kind of spending over the next 12 months, do you think?
I think with any phenomena, it's going to be something that continues, but I think you've got to totally understand what that's doing to industry. We deal with every single sector, so for every Groupon that's out there selling very economical spa days, then there's going to be the spas that are not trying to do a discount but are trying to add value instead, which is a much better plan for the long term, who are suffering. The interesting thing is, and we're just going to do a piece of work called Dispaster in the new year, is how when those businesses take some of the cuts and measures in place to do those amazing offers and they don't supply the customer service or the same value that you would expect at the face value that you've bought the item for. So say you're buying something for £10 that was worth £100. If you don't go and get that £100 but you actually get something nearer to £10, or you get bad service in a restaurant, actually you come away feeling a bit bitter about it. You're not going to interact with that business again. You're not going to be able to come back as a customer. You're going to give bad word of mouth, and actually the whole thing will end up being very sort of fatal in the long run. So Groupons and things are fantastic for very short-lived, very immediate things to go in and chivvy and excite, getting some sales there and then. But if you're going to do it and you're going to have to cut your costs to be able to offer that, then you're actually going to perhaps be giving people insight to a service or a product that isn't as great value, and therefore you're going to create more damage than good.
And then you get the other side of it, where you people like me who will buy stuff on Groupon or on Living Social and then forget to trade in my vouchers in time, and so I end up just giving away the money.
You make them rub their hands.
Yes.
It's a happy day.
Exactly. I think I'm the easy side of things. Hey, Kate, thanks very much for your time this morning. That's Kate Hardcastle. It's BBC Radio Sheffield 9:21.